Hello, everybody. Welcome to RPG Boons The Witching Hour. You can see it's happening during the Witching Hour, and we do this during the Witching Hour because that's when supernatural things tend to happen. I'm Don Franco 3, and today I want to talk a little bit about role playing. Let's go ahead and start skimming these. So, hold on one second. This thing is stalling. Here we go. Often when I play Dungeons and Dragons or I want to get a group together, someone always asks me, do I have to make funny voices? And the answer is no. Role playing or playing a character, a big part of it is not making funny voices. In fact, you never have to make any funny voices. It's not really part of the game. And the way I play it, I typically do not care if anybody makes any voices. So definitely not required. But there's one thing I do want to talk about. As soon as you pick up that character sheet, as soon as you pick it up, you're another person. You are no longer you, right? You are whatever class you chose to be. You are whatever race you decided to be. Now, in terms of trying to prepare for that race or class, that's really up to the player. It's a one shot. Maybe it's something they're going to continuously do throughout the game. They haven't really developed a backstory, and they really don't have to. But if they create a backstory, you can easily try to incorporate that into your world. But do they have to make the funny voices? And the answer is no. And so it really begins here, right? We're looking at different RPG systems: Dungeons and Dragons, Shadowdark, Daggerheart, Pathfinder. As soon as you pick up this sheet and you're reading through these statistics, you are a different person, right? You are no longer you. And that's the way you should start role playing. Just saying, I am this class, this type of warrior, and I'm going to behave accordingly. That is the minimum RP you have to do, and it automatically happens. It's something you don't even have to really think about. Just remember that, right? And all this is related to, of course, I gotta plug myself, my two pillars of RPG success. AI really gets on my nerves, guys. Always asking to fix shit. So this is what I consider my two pillars of RPG success. And of course, it's two main things, a lot of detailed notes underneath. You can actually get this at Don Franco 3 Games underneath the RPG Boons tabs. There's a lot of free PDFs in there. In case you're interested in some Shadowdark material, I created a 2 action point system if you wanted to go there and check it out for Shadowdark. Actually, it's for any OSR essentially. But I wanted to point into this buying into the narrative, and right there at the bottom under cooperation, so buying into the narrative right here, play your role, okay? And you simply play your role by playing the fighter, playing the dwarf. I have little short descriptions on what those things mean, so buy into the narrative. Whatever the story is, you're playing that story, okay? Maybe there was a survey, you didn't get to choose what you wanted, or they didn't do what you wanted. It doesn't matter at this point. At this point, play the fighter, play the dwarf, whatever it is, and be part of the story. Simplest way to really just contribute to the roleplay of the game. No voices, just those things. Then remember what your class is. Play your role. Act like the class would, and do it in a positive way. Okay, no negative stuff. You're there to have fun. You're there to support the DM, the other players. Again, I recommend just picking this up, taking it, making it your own. Give me a shout out if you don't make it your own, or if you manipulate it, whatever you do. This is very important. Hand it out to your players. It's a session 0 stuff. A lot of times session 0 is the session before you actually get into the game. This is not very common. where people get together and they build a character. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It just, in my experience, most of the people I've ever played with, I've had in them pre-generated characters, or they've created them on their own and sent me some emails, asked some questions about generating the character. You hand this out, say, hey, look, these are just some basic rules. Respect each other, act mature. I hate to send this to you guys, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, and I'm not trying to imply anything, but this is just the general rules for the game. So you send this out, you have a player who says, hey man, I'm not making any voices. Completely okay. All right. Doesn't need to make any voices. Playing your character, playing your class, playing your race, beginning. Okay. Now, if you're watching this and you're just kind of wondering what the hell do they mean by micro RP to macro RP, or how micro RP, this is the micro aspect. You've created a character, you are no longer you. This is the micro, the bare minimum. Okay. Now, every system has ways for you to add more role play for yourself, right? So you don't have to sit there. It is nice when you can come up with a nice backstory, but nobody has to be super creative here. And we always have some type of idea, and it's okay to steal from movies or other genres or whatever it is. You can steal information from them to play your role or contribute to your background and contribute to your role playing. But I wanted to point out to some things that are often overlooked. This is one of my gripes sometimes about role-playing games. And the whole video about bonuses and whatnot. If you look at these, this is dwarves from Pathfinder, Dungeons and Dragons 5e. We're looking at Draw Still at the bottom, and we got Shadow Dark on the top right. If you just look at these from these different systems, they already provide you information. If you just read this is going to give you the next step in trying to figure out some role play, right? So you pick your race, you read a description about them. Sometimes it gives you attributes about them, their kingdom. This will inspire you. Trust me, read this stuff. Spend 10 to 20 minutes and go through this. You can see that Shadow Dark, I've always said this, and you can watch my video about it. It's more for beginners and experts, because if you need to really know more about dwarves and elves and half-orcs and goblins, you're not going to get a lot of information out of Shadow Dark, because Shadow Dark is really meant, again, for beginners or advanced people, right? Beginners who don't really care and just want to roll the dice and kill some monsters. And for advanced people who already basically know a lot of this basic information about the different races. Now, this is just all about going from micro to macro, okay? What is another method for role-playing game? We hear about character alignment. Alignment is basically a disposition your character has, certain principles that he'll follow. And again, this is just looking at 5e, 2014 D&D, Pathfinder, and we're looking at Shadow Dark on the right there. Again, if you just read these, they give you a little bit of role play just by reading them and then choosing one. And then you're going to forget sometimes while you're playing, because you're just you. Remember, you're always just you. But if you can, kind of always refer to these alignments to try to figure out, how should my character act? Or what kind of decisions would they typically make? And by the way, your decision is not always to be a freaking murder hobo. Don't be a murder hobo. But your default answer shouldn't be, that's what my player would do. I hit them, or I whatever. That's bad role playing. But you basically use alignment as a role playing source, or role playing source essentially. You don't have to use it, but this helps you create more role play for your character, and you can continuously build on this. Okay, here's a situation where there's background. I didn't show the D&D 5 backgrounds because there's just so many of them, but again, D&D is really nice in a sense that it has tons of information in those backgrounds that you just read, and that should give you a little bit of inspiration for your role play, how you should act, maybe how you should think about your character. Remember, he has a background, experiences. Here we're looking at Daggerheart. They use experiences for skill checks, which is pretty cool. But basically, you now can use this background, whatever you've had, to also contribute to your role play. And again, role play is just adding a different personality trait to that character that you typically won't have. Daggerheart, of course, created by Critical Role. But if you see that video from, I would recommend looking for the one. I don't know. They might have pulled it down, but there's one with Travis Willingham, and he talks about how he was one of the least role-playing game type playing person at the table, maybe, and how his journey to be really creating Grog, which is his main character that people mostly recognize him for Critical Role, and how it was really to him a representation of himself, right? And then later on, he started adding more role play or things to role play for that character. And so you can use these things in these different RPG systems like background experiences to add more role play to your character. Again, still don't have to make any voices. Critical Role, they're all professional actors. That's why they make all the voices, and if that's part of your table, by the way, go for it. But definitely something you don't have to do. Watch Sam Riegel. Most of the time, well, he does start adding different voices, so I shouldn't say that. But if you look at him in campaign 1, it's just his voice, okay? He might, turn up his voice a little bit like this, to really kind of sound a little bit different, but it's him. He's not, there's no character voice there. Another place to look for is actually this one. Apologies, I did include the background. Here's for Dungeons and Dragons. You can see there's a little description of a charlatan there. It's blocked by the widget, the witching hour widget. You can see there's a list of things that you can consider for that background. And I brought this page up mostly because it has other methods for you to create more role play for a character. There's personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. If you play D&D, there's a little boxes for those kinds of things. And this is, again, just another way to give yourself role play for your character without making any voices. You give them a little bit more personality, a little bit more restrictions on principles. And you can here look at same thing when you're looking now. Another thing to think about here on the right, we're looking at Daggerheart, working at their domains. These are essentially class descriptions, okay? If you read those, and just look at those also provide you with role play. So if you even look at D&D, Pathfinder, and you look at the class, it always gives you a description of them. It's going to give you a little bit more role play. Here we're looking again at Daggerheart. You can see if we read through all these different domains, the Arcana Bladebone, it provides you information, and that should give you a little more role play for that character without any use of voices at all. Now, as you have that character, let's say you continue to have your group. Most groups do not last, unfortunately. That's why sometimes it's best to not invest a lot of time into writing that background. Although it's fair game for you to take that character and take it somewhere else, right? To find another group. So think about that. Now, if you happen to have that campaign that lasts somewhere between 7 and 12 sessions, you can easily, start building a background for your character, a real life background that essentially gives you a little bit more role play or how to play your character. I mentioned Travis Willingham. There's also a nice little video with Joe Manganiello where he talks about Archon and how he really wanted this weathered feel of Archon that he's been through a lot. And when you see he's finally in the Avernus source book for Dungeons and Dragons, he has a Manticore that he actually picked up on Celebrity D&D with Matt Mercer. So you can see that's where he got his Manticore. So there's a nice build up there. So you can think about that, about your characters in that way. Now, the final thing I wanted to show you is just some YouTube channels that I stumbled across that I think embody what I'm talking about. Some of these, they just they really commit to their player character, their PC, and they're just playing their PC. Now, in some cases, they do a little bit of a voice. I think depending on the group, again, you never have to make the voice, but if you're around people who are willing to use their voices a little bit, I think it inspires you to use your voice a little bit and change it up. And then so we're looking at here are just some example games that I found online that I actually subscribe to, not through my RPG Boons channel, but through my other. And you can see these subscribers vary, right? So Mystic Mountains only has 1,000, 2,900. Not only, I'm not trying to insult anybody. I watch these guys. Great place. You can see that they just come in, they're there to play the game, they're taking it relatively serious. Let's get some of that elixir in here. It is the witching hour. Now let's look at tabletop down. 305 subscribers. Again, these are people that I actually subscribe to on my other actual YouTube. What do you call that? Your normal person, normal person YouTube channel or YouTube profile. This one has 305 subscribers. Same thing. If you watch it, it's just people trying to have fun. They're streaming their D&D game. I tend to watch D&D just because I'm most familiar with that and I am interested in the mechanics and the things they're doing. Dice Legends has 4,000 subscribers. It's a little bit more, I don't want to say it's high production, but you can tell they put a little more into it. And these guys, I believe they're either out of New Zealand, which I think is where it's from, but they're from Australia. But they're having a good time, okay? And part of the good thing about Dice Legends is most of their episodes, at least their more later episodes, are only like 30 minutes to an hour long, so it's really easy to digest. Then there's the Rules Lord. Now this is the Pathfinder channel. If you go to his channel, you're gonna find a bunch of other stuff, his reviews, his comments, but he also live streams with a bunch of people, and you can see he has a lot of subscribers. But this is the Pathfinder 2 or Pathfinder YouTube channel that I follow there. But you can find live streams, and you can find, sometimes he does it with famous celebrities, YouTube celebrities that play D&D. Sometimes it's just him doing his live streams, and you can see the way those players play their characters. And the other one is Dragonlance Saga. Now, obviously, Dragonlance is a famous name. This one has close to 30K subscribers. But when you watch his live streams with players, it's just a bunch of regular people. I'm sure they're connected with him in some kind of way, but no one's trying really hard to be a voice actor. People are just there to have fun. And again, people are just playing their role, whatever their character is, whatever they're supposed to be. And in some cases, some of these people do have some background that they add. But again, these are great examples. I mean, I know we're all busy. You can throw one of these channels on in the background, maybe just watch one episode. Even this channel, I recommend watching it at 1.25 when you're watching the witching hour, because things are just a little bit slower. I would recommend that for the live streams. Things just tend to go a little bit slower during a live stream, so put that at 1.25 or 1.5. And that's pretty much it. I wanted to tell you guys that if you're in a game, at minimum, play your role. You're a dwarven fighter. Read a little bit of that background. You don't have to establish a huge background, a huge backstory. But I will tell you that in the past, when I've had players do that, I have used their backstories and highlighted their backgrounds as part of the game. And they actually become part of the campaign story, the campaign setting, the world. They drive part of my narrative and my story. Of course, I've told you guys in the past, I believe that the Dungeon Master is a storyteller, and he kind of uses those player characters to build his world, help him flesh it out. And I always work with my players' backgrounds if they have them. If they're very detailed, it helps me. If it's not, I can build upon those. And I always ask them, hey, is it okay if I take your background and add a little more body to it and kind of put your story to the forefront? So that's pretty much it, everybody. That's it for the witching hour. I did not see any ghosts. I don't know if you guys did behind me or anything. That's it. I'm RPG. This is RPG Boons. I'm Don Franco 3, the witching hour. Until next time.